Happy Wednesday to you. I hope that you're having a great week. I know some of you watched the presidential debates last night. Quite an experience, I would say. For those of you who watch, you probably know what I mean. But let's talk about the financial markets because that is what we are here to talk about each and every day after the stock market closes. Today, good news across the board. The Dow closed up 328 points. The Nasdaq joined up also over 82 points as we continue to see discussions on the next round of stimulus payments. And believe it or not, looks like we might be getting somewhere because we do know that there are more discussions on what this would look like if we would receive another round of stimulus checks. But certainly there are a lot of deadlines pressing against making a decision. As we know, October 1st, which is just tomorrow. Can you believe we're already into October? Tomorrow is actually the big day for airlines because as you remember, in the first round of federal relief, the airlines actually did receive aid with the understanding that they wouldn't let anyone go. They wouldn't do any layoffs unfortunately, until October 1st. So October 1st is tomorrow. So if we don't see some sort of indication of another federal relief package, we're looking at over 30,000 Americans in the airline industry of losing their jobs, losing their income. So that's really going to translate to more aid in other ways anyway. So I think the clock is ticking. I think we're going to have some good information here sooner rather than later. In addition, you may have seen continued talks of layoffs. We talked about that in the airline industry, but it's kind of across the board. We see more announcements. As yesterday, Disney announced over 28,000 of their employees are going to get laid off because of the pandemic. So you might be thinking, oh, I definitely don't want to be in that situation. But more importantly, how can I prepare myself so I am in a better position in case I do get notification either by Zoom or phone call that my job hours could be cut or I could be losing my job altogether. You know, last week on our tweet chat, we had a discussion just on that, like what you need to do, things to think about when you're navigating the workplace. And today, we had two experts come and join us about how to make the most of LinkedIn and maybe some things that you didn't think about, some other features that you may not have seen. And so I'm delighted once again to have Suzanne Brown join us. Suzanne, as you know, is definitely one of the leaders in our tweet chat community, someone I trust, someone I absolutely consider a friend. So I'm really grateful that she could make the time today to talk about this because, as you know, well, let's start with this, Suzanne. Tell everybody, if you don't mind, what you do and really your expertise, because I think it pairs very, very well to our discussion today.
So I'm a strategic marketing and business consultant, and then I am also a work-life balance speaker and consultant and two-time author. So I definitely talk about this side of things when it comes to if people are trying to move to a new company that might be more family friendly, or if they're realizing, oh, maybe I want to become an entrepreneur, but how do I get things going because they're needing more flexibility in their lives. So I can sometimes dabble in things related to LinkedIn. So I loved the discussion today. It was incredibly helpful.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Well, I do feel that way. I feel like, you know, a lot of people right now are unsure. And I've actually been working with a lot of clients recently that are transitioning from their workplace at all different companies across the country. And one of the first things that we talk about is the importance of updating your LinkedIn profile. And I'm really glad because today we had Brian Shulman and as well as Quentin join us. And they really are two of the most prominent leaders on the LinkedIn space. They certainly create live streaming content. They create video content, a lot of written content, just two really great human beings too. So what we wanted to do was sort of share maybe some features you didn't know that you could access through your LinkedIn profile. As you know, over 700 million people are currently on LinkedIn and actually in 200 different countries. In fact, there were statistics that we shared on Tweet Chat that, you know, the majority of millionaires are actually on LinkedIn. So what does that mean to you? You might say, well, what does that really mean? Well, what it means is that a lot of the financial decision makers, people who are hiring, looking to build relationships, maybe even engage you for new business. Like I'm sure like for example, Suzanne, I'm sure like in your industry, you do a lot of consulting, you work with a lot of businesses. I'm sure a lot of them reach out to you on LinkedIn, and certainly if you don't already, definitely if you want to do it, you definitely want to follow Suzanne on LinkedIn. Take a look at this. So this was a statistic that was shared today that there's over 30 million companies on LinkedIn and 20 million job listings. In fact, I just learned recently, like I think there's someone hired on through LinkedIn every few seconds. So it's incredible just of the level of access, right? Suzanne, what like when you think about your LinkedIn profile, like if you were to rank yourself, like basically 10 being a pro, right, and 1 being sort of right starting off, where would you think that you're at?
So before the chat today, I would have thought that I was like a 7. And after the chat today, I'm a solid 5.
So it looks like you have a list of things to do then for your
Yeah,
LinkedIn.
I mean, there's some new stuff that is going to be really interesting, and I feel like I need to jump on it. It's like, okay, I've used it in a very, I feel like, traditional way, and I feel like I need to just kind of expand what it is that I'm doing on the platform. So it's exciting. I mean, there's some great functionality that's happening, so we all need to take better advantage of it.
I love that. So Suzanne says, so those of you who feel this way, it's more of a traditional way of using LinkedIn. So let's talk about the untraditional, newer way, Suzanne. So let's share, Chris, let's go ahead and share one of the questions that came out today, because I think this will help you, for those of you who weren't able to join the chat, see what we were talking about. So this was actually question 2. We actually shared, I think, 14 questions today. And this is talking about some of the new features on LinkedIn that perhaps you're not so familiar with, but you could definitely take advantage of it. So Brian Schulman, who's on Voice Your Vibe, Brian actually is a good friend of mine. He and I actually participate at VidCon, and I actually moderated and spoke on the LinkedIn live stream content at the VidCon conference. But Brian shares LinkedIn stories. This is a brand new thing. Many of you may not know that exists, but it's certainly a very popular thing now. We've seen stories on Facebook. We've started seeing on Instagram, on many other social networks, but it's coming to LinkedIn. And so this will be interesting to see how people use it on LinkedIn, because although it's similar in style, but you really want to think about it for your business purposes. And Suzanne, I see you laughing because I know what you're happy about. I know you've got a 4-legged entrepreneur friend next to you, probably wanting to learn LinkedIn for himself.
I knew that, and yes, we have a new dog, so he feels very strongly that he should be featured in everything that I do. I'm working on that. That is definitely a work in progress, because I didn't have enough on my plate. But that said, I think that I think every platform has basically created their version of stories, largely because of, let's be honest, TikTok, right? So IG stories started, Facebook stories, or whatever the Facebook version of it is. And so it only makes sense that LinkedIn did the same, because there's a way to personalize and to bring in more personality into the platform, because so many people from a traditional perspective have looked at this platform as more of this has to be my professional side. I have to put only my professional foot forward. And so I love the fact that there is this more personal way. And Brian made a great point of being able to layer things on together so that you can show personality and still show the business side of things, but it allows you to give more of a multidimensional story to it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And so I love that.
I love that, because I love what you said. I sorry to interrupt you, but I love what you mean by like sort of giving more of that personality, which is interesting, because LinkedIn traditionally, I've been on LinkedIn since when I was working at Smith Barney, which is a very traditional, old-fashioned financial firm. Now it's Morgan Stanley, for those of you who are sort of following this. But and you're right, it was so traditional. It was like basically you put up your certifications, your degrees, your titles, and you just sort of connected with people, one by one. But now it's becoming more of a true social experience. In fact, as you know, I have 2 courses on LinkedIn Learning. Now we've got LinkedIn Stories. Another feature for those of you entrepreneurs, or just if you have some thought leadership that you want to share, is also LinkedIn newsletters. Suzanne, I'm guessing this would be really helpful for your business. Have you looked at newsletters?
I haven't, but I like this. So I don't have to take them away and say, oh, hey, can you sign up for one more email? Because no one wants that right now. But if you can do it all through the platform where they are already spending time, it makes it such a better idea. And I feel like a lot more people would be willing to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think they would.
And I think that's the thing with so many platforms. We have talked about, I think we even talked about it last week. You want to be where people already are, right? Like whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're looking for a job, whether you are trying to become more of a thought leader in the company where you work, whatever it is, you want to be where people already are who are looking for that content. And so if you can already go to people where they spend time, let's be honest, people are spending time on LinkedIn because they're not getting the same kind of content on LinkedIn that they're getting on Twitter or Facebook or in their email inbox. So it just makes sense, to have one more thing that they can have access to. I think it's such a good idea. So I'm so excited to see that functionality there too.
Yeah, I think it's smart business. Let's take a look at another question, because I know there was another one. We're going to share 3 questions and comments today for you, those of you who are following us, to encourage you, because I think you're definitely going to want to join in this conversation with us next on the following week. All right, Curtis, let's see what we've got. So this was another question. So the best tips for creating powerful videos or live streams to help you stand out on LinkedIn. Now, many of you probably already know that you can do video, you can upload video onto LinkedIn, but many of you may also have live streaming access like I do. Actually really proud of first financial person to have live stream access on LinkedIn. That was part of the first, I think, 5 or 6. But Quentin, who's a big video powerhouse on LinkedIn, he says, I think, I apologize. I think so many people are trying to go viral and not enough time looking at what kind of results they're really wanting. On a basic level, not always true, controversial works very well. Or just taking a stance on something. So, Suzanne, have you started a video on LinkedIn yourself?
I have started video. I haven't necessarily done controversial video, but I have done video. I think the thing that's important is thinking about what does your audience need or how do they want to get it? And so, for example, I did 2 weeks right before school started of what are some quick ways that as a working mom, you can work better at home on the work side. And then I did another week of what are some of the things that you can do to become more productive and work smarter on the home side. And so, but they were quick video. I mean, just super quick, like less than 5 minutes, because the audience that I was talking to didn't have an hour to spend on video. And so I think that is the really important thing, is who's going to be engaging with this content and what is it that they need in order to engage with the content.
Yes, I think that's a great point. And so a lot of people ask about the difference between video and live streaming. So on video, when you upload native video to LinkedIn, it is smart to stick to shorter content. So anywhere between 30 seconds to 2 minutes to 5 minutes, like Suzanne had shared. But with live streaming, it's actually different. With live streaming, you actually want to go longer. Ideally, you want to go and, like they call it, sort of baking live streaming. You kind of want to ideally bake at least 30 minutes if you can. I don't always do that. Like, for example, unfortunately, I have a client call right after this, so I'm not going to probably be able to go to the full 30, but that's sort of the goal. And I know Brian Schumann, who was on our panel today, he actually, I guess he said that he has the longest record of live streaming on LinkedIn. He went, I think, as long as 4 hours. And I think I actually remember when he was doing this. But yeah, I mean, I would think I would get very thirsty. My throat would get dry, but maybe you and I should try that one day. We'll have to try. Maybe we'll go to.
I know we'll do it.
Hours and 2 minutes. We'll have to try it. But yeah,
Well,
so
and I
for,
think that's, sorry, go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. No, no.
I, I think that that's the great thing about the live streaming side, because it, there is, with a lot of the longer video content, it might be that you are interviewing somebody, and so you don't want 5 minutes. You want 30 minutes. You want an hour of that person's time so that you can get to the real kind of meatiness of the topic that you're talking about. When you are doing your videos on the market, or when you have your Monday modern mom interviews, or the interviews that you do throughout the week, you're not going to have them on your show every day. So you want to be able to get as much out of that conversation as you can. So it totally makes sense to have 30 minutes or an hour, because there's so much information that you can get out of that. And so that video becomes really an opportunity for education, right? Like there are other things that you can do during that video time. But I think that you also don't want that to be in a 5 minute hit in an interview, because, okay, you've spent all this time and energy to get somebody to come and talk to you, and 5 minutes, like, no, so you want to make sure it makes sense for the use that you have and for the audience. So
Yes,
um,
that's such a great point, Suzanne. It's interesting that you say that because, sometimes people don't think about that. But like, for example, like this week I was on Fox Business and Digital Trends on Tuesday. Those are really short hits. Like you go in and out. If you get 8 minutes, that's a big deal. But when you're doing interview style, it's different because that's one where you're just trying to get in there, get information to the audience of what's important. But it's not about you. But the interview style, it is like our responsibility is to give a chance to celebrate you, to have you share your story and talk more about you. So yeah, there's definitely two different styles. I love that you shared that because I think it's really important. And some of you might be a little shy and not really ready to get into live streaming and video yet, and that's okay. But I do think many of you, I think if you tried, you would find it to be not as daunting as you think it is, but certainly that step. Another thing a lot of people ask, and I want to say a quick hello to Lena for being here and Jim for being here and Get It Hair for being here. I see you and it's great to have you here. A lot of people have been asking me, how do you get LinkedIn Live access? And so I thought I would share this with you because it's a LinkedIn tweet chat that we have. We're having discussion right now. If you're interested in getting LinkedIn Live access, because it's really sort of a long-term beta, and they're really careful because LinkedIn wanted to do this right. They didn't want to give access too quickly. They wanted to make sure they were creating quality content. Understand, LinkedIn doesn't want to give access to everybody because they want to make sure you're using it in a way that benefits all the other users as well. So this is a suggestion. If you're interested and you're applying and you submitted your request for LinkedIn Live, do know that a team at LinkedIn will actually review your profile. So make sure your profile reflects you really well. Additionally, do like what Suzanne does, which is upload video. So that way, when LinkedIn comes and reviews your profile, they're going to see an example of the video content that you would be sharing if they were to give you live access. What you don't want to do is not have any videos on your profile and then request live streaming access, because it doesn't help LinkedIn at all. They don't know what they're going to get from you, and they don't want to take that risk. I think that's what's nice about LinkedIn is they're really being very thoughtful in the way that they're sort of out. They're sharing new types of products, which is like the newsletter and LinkedIn Live, and you've also seen. You can add a circle around your profile if you're looking for work. There's a lot of things, and LinkedIn is coming out with this really cool. But do you know, so I've had a chance to spend time with LinkedIn um, um, I guess, executive staff at LinkedIn headquarters in New York. I as well talked to those up in Silicon Valley. These are some really, really nice and thoughtful people. So definitely a big shout out for them. Let's, Curtis, maybe we can ask one more question. I know this will be our last question, but I'll give you an idea. And those of you who are watching, definitely want to invite you to the next tweet chat that we're having, because you get to actually talk to Suzanne Brown on Twitter as well as the rest of the community. So I always say the nicest people on social media. Okay, Curtis, one more question. Let's see what we got. Okay, so this is our beloved Suzanne Brown. Don't you wish you could clone your best customers? Of course, but how? LinkedIn can help. Okay, Suzanne says when meeting the right people on LinkedIn, see who your connections are and take action. Actually, I'm gonna stop there and just let Suzanne let you answer. I mean, you're here. We don't need you to read your tweet. What are your feelings about cloning your best customers, your clients? How do you connect? How do you do that?
So I think the thing that really helps is when a lot of times like attracts like. And so if you have your ideal customer already, see who they're spending time with, see where they're commenting on articles and see what things they are doing, because you can see people's activity. I mean, that's part of the beauty of the platform, right? You can see what other people are doing and engage with the people who they are engaging with. And as you start to make that connection and as you see things that you have in common, when you want to connect with that next layer out, that kind of halo that you create, make reference to whatever it is that you have engaged with. So if you commented on an art, if someone who comments on some kind of, we'll say an article or something that somebody posts, and you comment on it as well, and you want to connect with either a person who made a comment or the person who originally posted it, you can say, hey, I love the thing that you posted yesterday, or I love the thing you posted this morning. I'm always looking to engage with somebody who's like-minded or who serves the same audience, or who, whatever it is. Let's connect. Instead of it being just this random request that they get in their inbox that they're like, who is this person? Because they could have had 50 comments on whatever it is that they posted, and you're no one, And I think that is the thing that is being able to reference that you've already had either someone in common, or you've done something in common, I think creates more of a connection than just this random, oh, you could be interesting to connect with, maybe. If you can't see what that connection could look like, are you going to connect with them?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. I think that is something that people take for granted all the time, that they reach out to you with no point of reference.
Yes.
And they want to connect. And okay, maybe instead of making that introduction and saying why you want to connect or how you are connected or whatever it is. And I'm shocked by the number of people who don't change the verbiage. I'm so surprised by it every day.
Agree. I'm with you on that. So I think that's a great point. So for those of you who are watching too, the other thing that which is really nice too is if you go and look at one of your connections, right, or search for one of your connections, usually on the right hand side, it'll also say people who search for this person also were searching for these people. So sometimes you can sort of find like-minded and similar types of people. For example, let's say you're looking for a journalist to connect with, right? So if they search for this journalist on the right, they usually show you others that you can also consider. So you sort of in that way duplicate and also put those people on your radar. So there's a lot of things that we share today, and I know this is just really the very beginning steps. And I just want to tell you, those of you who are watching and participating, you might want to figure out other ways to elevate your LinkedIn profile. So take a moment. Suzanne and I and all our friends on Twitter actually spent over an hour having a discussion on deep dive on things about LinkedIn that you might not think about, that you could really benefit you right now, that are free, that you can start working on. Suzanne even gave herself a 5. I think she's just being too harsh on herself. She's got a great profile, so definitely check her out. You can check my profile out as well. But go to Twitter, do a quick search for hashtag Winnie Sun. You can see all the tweets that came out. Suzanne's got a whole bunch of them, as well as Brian Schumann and Q and everybody else in our group. Some great content. We also put some of that together into a Twitter moment or mention, so that you can also go, and if you want just a quick view of that, take a look at that. But whatever you do, know that these services are out there for you. Most importantly, I want to invite you to join us on our next tweet chat. You get hopefully you'll get to see Suzanne there too, because she's definitely, if she's not there, I get actually kind of worried. But I don't like tweet chats without Suzanne on. But So you can follow her there and follow us there. And that's really, really the most important things that we wanted to invite you, most importantly, to our next tweet chat. So Suzanne, thank you so much for joining me. I always appreciate you being here, and hopefully you'll be able to join us again, because you are so much of the reason why we do these tweet chats, and we continue to do them, is because I've made friends like you that I wouldn't otherwise. So thank you so much for just being you.
Winnie, it's one of the moments of the week that I most enjoy, because it is just such a good community. And I think that's the thing. It really is a community online. People ask you questions. You make a comment one week and people will say, hey, how'd that presentation that you had go last week? People remember things, they engage, they ask. And so it really does feel like you're interacting with friends just in an online setting. So it is the best Twitter chat. You will not regret spending the time coming to the chat and just getting to meet just a ton of people. And the content is so good. It is so good. I mean, I literally have pages of notes here. So so you will too. So just be ready. I always say, come to the chat with paper and pen, because you will write things down.
A water bottle.
Yes, and a water bottle. Stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated. Okay, thank you, my friend. Thank you so much for all of you tuning in, and a huge thank you to Tamika, who I see as well joining us from Periscope. It's wonderful to see you. And most important, join us next week. Thank you so much, and I will see you again tomorrow right here, same time, 1:30, 4:30 Eastern. Take care. See you very soon. Bye.